Hey leaders, why do men burn out in their 30s? This is a question I've been wrestling with for years because heaps of guys I know, heaps of my mates, I have my own wrestles. There's emotional breakdowns, there's affairs, there's people hitting brick walls, there's burnouts, whatever you want to call it. And why does this tend to happen to men in their 30s? So I want to throw a few of my thoughts at you. We really need to help men. This is something that's quite silent that we don't talk about enough as leaders. We don't help men navigate enough. So I think the first thing is inauthenticity. There's people struggle with this, being authentic, being honest with themselves and with those around them, and particularly men. You know, especially in their 20s when they're told to be strong, when we value the warrior, the weekend warrior, the sports warrior, the soldier, whatever, and then they get to their 30s and they feel a bit weak, a bit fragile. The stresses of life, marriage, 1 kid, 2 kid, 3 kids, career, buying a house, mortgages, all these things start to build up and they don't feel strong anymore, but they're not honest about it. They don't talk to someone about it. They don't work it out. They don't express their fears. They don't assess the risk of their life or where things could go wrong, their vulnerabilities. They're not honest with themselves. They buy into their own story of why they're going to be okay, why they're different, why injustices happen, why life's difficult, and it's just not an authentic story that's going on in their head. Often there's a failure to have true intimacy with their partner, where the romance is worn off from 10 years ago, but they haven't developed true intimacy with their partner. They're not authentic there. And the key, and I reckon this is the solution, they haven't developed authenticity with men. You need to have men in your life. This is the solution. You need to have guys you sit down with who are also, like you, fallible, also working through difficult things at the same age and stage, same pressures of life, and just get honest with them in a positive way that looks towards moving forward, not honest in a way that you become cynical and bitter and just, you know, talk about how evil everything is. But men are going to help you through. But you've got to be honest somewhere. And look, your partner, your intimate partner, your wife, she's not the person that you need to be 100% honest with. I think this is a big myth that we're told that we should be 100% honest with our partner and they should help us navigate everything. It's not going to work. It's not sustainable. It's not true. You need guys in your life as well. I think the second thing is often men are spiritually shallow. Men who hit walls are spiritually shallow. Spirituality is a very private thing, so often people don't see it or don't know it. And if you're involved in a church or a spiritual community, it's easy to fake it on the outside anyway and appear spiritual. But what's really going on in your relationship with God, in the quiet place, in the place that nobody sees, when depth is developed there, and to create depth between you and God, it takes time, it takes focus, it takes valuing prayer, fasting, studying the Bible. It takes valuing these things to build depth. If you're not doing those things, then the storms come, the hard times come, and you turn to Jesus, and the relationship there is shallow, and the connection is poor, and the pattern of going to him with your problems and working things through with God and getting answers from heaven isn't there. And then often the issues of life are too much, and the shallowness in our spiritual walk and our spiritual life is unable to hold us up. Where Jesus is the only thing that is not fragile, he's the only one that's perfect. And we find in our 30s, man, we really hit this wall of, man, things are not perfect, things are not working out the way that I've thought. Often disappointment is a huge problem and reason men burn out, because the gap between reality and where their life is actually at and what they thought it would look like at 35, what my marriage would look like, what work would look like being a dad would look like. There's a gap between reality and between the ideal, and that disappointment fills the gap. And that disappointment is there. And we all go through that disappointment. If we don't turn to God and have a depth there, then that disappointment is going to overtake us with cynicism and sarcasm and bitterness and concern. And what men tend to do is they retreat. So inauthenticity and lack of spirituality, rather than retreat to a spiritual place and find God, men retreat to gaming, retreat to porn, retreat to bitterness. They just become quiet. They become isolated. They withdraw emotionally, mentally. It's often the number one complaint you hear from wives is, why doesn't he do anything? Where is he? Why doesn't he talk to me anymore? Why is he gaming all night? The third thing I would say, that's the reason people hit a wall, or the thing I'm thinking about at the moment, the third thing is our talents become tired. So in our 20s, we run on these talents, these gifts, abilities, skills, and they get us the girl, they get us a house, they get us some money, they get us a career. Probably older mentors and wiser people show us grace because we're young, we're in our 20s, we're up and coming, and this raw talent drives us. And we have an ambition and we want to go somewhere, and we haven't experienced too many bad things in life, so we're not too cynical and bitter yet, and we just run on these talents. But we get to 35, we get to 40, 45, these things don't work anymore. The talents have become tired, the skills have become blunt, and we need to reinvent. We need new tools for a new season of life. But men are trying to run on the tools that they used when they were 22 to get the girl, or when they were 25 to get their first promotion at work, and they don't work anymore. But if we still go to our old faithfuls and still go back to the past and try and use the skills from the past, they become very, very ineffective. They're not very effective anymore 10 years into marriage. They're not very effective in raising your kids because they need something different from you. They don't need a 22-year-old minded dad. They need a mature father that can coach them and train them. And then at work anymore, now we're in the position and we're earning the money and we're at that level, but those skills that got us there are not the skills that we need to go to the next level. And especially as leaders, often the skills that got us into the position of leadership and influence and those great places are not the skills that we need to go to the next level of leadership. Often the skills we needed were up and coming skills and the fighting skills and that raw talent and the stand in front of a crowd and speak really well and organize hard and deal with people who are wrong harshly, and those skills might have got us somewhere. But as we begin to move into higher levels of leadership, we need softer skills, we need emotional intelligence, we need to be able to talk to people, we need to be able to show empathy, show grace, we need to be able to listen a lot better, which we definitely don't do in our 20s. So new skills are needed for a new phase, and if men fail to adapt to these new skills or recognize them, they often don't change until they hit a wall, until things go really bad, and then they're forced to change. So really interested to hear what you think. You've probably got other points, other reasons. Why do you think men burn out in their 30s? Why do people hit walls at this age? Why does life become too much and they tend to fall into addiction and adultery and get caught up in things, or just plateau out, or just withdraw and retreat from life? Commit suicide is a huge issue for young men. Really interested to hear what your thoughts are. Put them in the comments below, and just subscribe to my channel or like this. It would help a lot.